one thing at a time, or I'm going to get lost. Just for my sake, I'm going to get lost if we don't do one thing at a time. So I see this discussion going on about plot holes, and I love analyzing stuff. I drove my family crazy growing up because I would analyze every movie we would watch, nitpick the little details and praise what I thought was really nice touches and just go way too in depth for them. But, anyways, I was interested in this discussion and I didn't pause your video and I kind of just glanced over the discussion and I kind of start responding and then I hear my name, my screen name, and it's like, wait, what?
Yeah, the Silvas NPC is in at least 3 scenes, I believe, off the top of my head.
And as I mentioned in the comment, I thought you said unscrupulous light guy or something like that at first, and that actually kind of gave me a chuckle because it's like, okay, am I some cheapskate that's cutting corners and causing people issues?
Oh no, I don't know. I'll have to go back and listen to what I said. I definitely.
You didn't. I
Oh,
went
okay.
back and checked. I went back and checked, and you didn't. And I was honestly a little bit disappointed.
Oh. Well, it's funny because so I created this document. Well, actually, I wrote it on paper of who people's names that I wanted to put as NPCs, and then I wanted one person of each wool color, except for the extras are a light gray, because the main character is white, and then the extras are light gray, so they're similar, and then the crew is orange, and
And I
so
noticed the color schemes that you were keeping that consistent.
yeah,
Very nice touch. It helps the player keep track without having to continuously check the names.
yeah,
In fact,
and I
I
didn't.
think I'm going to make a prediction. All right. I think most of your players are going to wind up associating characters purely by color and are not. I think most players are not going to know their names by the end. They're just going to know their colors.
See, I'm not even honest. That's interesting. I'm not sure that anyone's going to notice the colors. I actually like for you and actually for all of the characters. I'm trying to think if there's any exceptions to this, but they're fairly well spread out. Like I tried not to use the same person in sequential scenes.
If they
So
check the names, they'll probably notice the pattern. And
yeah,
I'm just predicting they'll forget the names but remember the colors.
yeah, and the colors are important too because, like, for example, the main star is blue wool, and his stunt double is lapis, which is, similar to blue wool, but the stunt double never looks exactly like the actor.
Um, have you considered using cyan clay, or would that clash with some of your builds?
Yeah, no, I tried to keep it to wool except for the lapis block.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
I had a feeling, but it was worth asking.
yeah, and I'm actually right now building with
What about light blue?
quite a bit of. Well, light blue is
Oh, right,
the
it's used for
second.
something else.
Yeah, so the star is blue, and the best supporting actor is light blue,
Okay.
and the female lead is red. Um, but I
Oh goodness, no one. I didn't think about that, but no wonder she's in the claw,
yeah,
the red shirt.
yeah. Well, that too. Um, and I don't actually have a second female. I don't know what you call that. It's pretty funny. I keep saying best supporting actor, but I can't think of what the like.
Female support,
Yeah, like what do they call? Even the male, like not the
lead male
lead,
support, lead female support.
not the lead, but like other people in the film are called something.
I'm sure there's a
Yeah,
wiki page that actually describes all this.
yeah. I had to actually go and look up because like I knew some of the terms like boom operator and gaffer, but I wasn't 100% sure what they meant, and I didn't want to use them wrong because like
Uh-huh.
for Dads Are Funny for Dave, I wanted to make sure he was the guy that held the microphone
Hmm.
because he is kind of known for his deep voice, and I associate him with like podcasting and stuff like that.
Yeah, a natural radio type voice.
Yes, and then I knew that Sean and Carter were going to be cameramen because I primarily interacted with them through their YouTube videos, and Sean and they have a podcast where they talk about movies, and I wanted to use Fellonius as the person with two, as the stuntman slash leading man, because
I would have personally. I think I would have made him special effects, if only because wizard.
yeah, well, he has Fellonius, and then he also has Email Firo as his his personas, and because he wears the blue robe, I was thinking of him, and I needed the stuntman to be similar to the other man. I don't know. I basically I picked certain roles for certain people, and then other people I just
So
kind
he's
of
Fellonius is the Lapis.
the lapis and the wool actually,
No,
because
I meant
he's
the actual name Fellonius.
Email Firo is the stuntman,
Oh, okay.
and Fellonius or Peter Fellon is the star.
Oh, I get the
Yeah, and
association.
they're
Um,
supposed to look similar.
yeah, I was just thinking Lapis kind of feels more wizard roby.
Yeah.
Just
Well, Email Firo is actually the lapis
oh,
guy,
okay, all right.
and yeah. So I don't know. I basically and then there are other people that just kind of got random assignments,
Hmm.
and it's funny because, for example, I felt bad. Like I wanted to give jGazMom a prominent role, but I didn't really have another strong female except for the script supervisor, and so I started using her as that, and then I realized that I'm like kind of, setting up the dialogue as if she has a crush on the player, and then I'm like, oh, this feels awkward. like I'm like,
Yeah,
I hope she's not offended by that, but because it's not actually, it's not really anything to do with the real life person. It was just I
yeah.
wanted someone that has a big role.
Cameo name, using their
Yeah.
name as a cameo.
But then other people like,
Maybe.
yeah, like Vrail, who is the special effects guy, and he's always. It's funny because he's very technical in his comments. He's always telling me the calculations of how stuff gets done and all this kind of stuff. And I have only played with him once or talked with him once, and so I don't really know his speech dialogue patterns, but he's getting a kick out of what I'm having his character say.
I was actually kind of curious about that. I'm not sure how much into detail you can go, but it made me wonder seeing you use, for instance, my name. It's like, I wonder how much that sounds like me or doesn't sound like me.
No.
Not that it really matters, but just curiosity.
Yeah, I don't
That's
think.
probably one of my biggest character flaws. I am curious to a fault.
I'll have to use that against you. I mean, I'll have to remember that in the map. No, I mean, he's the lighting guy, and it's funny because when I think of uh, talking with you, what I actually think of is when we played that mist map, and like
I have
this.
all that footage still, by the way.
Yeah, I do regret that I didn't edit that one the way I should have, but I always think of like the first area and like lighting. For some reason in this map, lighting reminded me of that like really bright open area with all the colored things you could enter, and I was like, oh, I'll make him the lighting guy. And there were like the glowstone things in the air in that map. I don't know if you remember. Uh, so that's why I was like, okay, he should be the lighting guy, and then other people will have other roles, and moved a couple people around here and there, but I'm happy with where everyone ended up.
Okay.
So you had some questions, or
Yeah.
you wanted to talk about map making, I think.
Yeah, that's the thing. I've obviously never made a map. I've had certain aspirations and certain inspirations. For instance, trying to get I think I had some videos a while ago where I was testing out some different tint designs, seeing what looked good. This was before carpets, actually, so I could probably do a lot better now, come to think of it. And I was also testing out castle wall designs, and in particular, ones that had functional murder holes,
Hmm.
and like not the Pulse Swords Junior type Minecraft murder holes, but the ones where historically rocks and things were actually dropped onto people for sieges,
Hmm.
and also oil dumping areas, which was actually lava. But the idea was, press a button and you'd have a spout of lava. I was wondering if there was some way to, back then, I was wondering if there was some way I could limit how often that could be used. And I was kind of thinking about making a competitive castle siege map.
Oh.
Of course, as the Minecraft versions marched onwards, that just wound up falling by the wayside.
But yeah, now I mean with command blocks, there's a ton of ways you could
Yes,
do
and
it.
it's paralyzing.
Uh, well,
You,
that's my. I agree. Like I there's so much in 1.8. I'm afraid to update this map that I'm making right now because
um, I
I know it's not going to break anything, but I feel like I would have to go back and pick out decorative touches and add to it, and it's just so overwhelming. And like
the
thinking,
fences, yeah,
oh man, thinking about like, okay, what map am I going to make next? There's so many things I have to catch up on to
yeah.
know.
That also leads me to something I wanted to bring up during this discussion. Just a little side note, mostly. It's never a good thing really for the map. Now for Minecraft in general, it's always an excellent thing when Minecraft marches on. Mojang's editions are usually well thought out and well made. You gotta forgive them the snapshots because hey, they're for testing. That's what they're for.
Yeah,
So I can forgive them how bunnies turned out at first. They should never have been both pets and cattle, or at the very least, they should never have a teleportation mechanic. But now they're only livestock, so that
I don't
issue is gone.
I don't even know. Like, yeah.
I've been as 1.8 nears full release. I've actually been keeping a close eye on the change logs because I'm pretty interested. But anyways, as Minecraft marches on, there's always that danger that a map will cease really functioning because something fundamental will change,
Hmm.
game mechanics will change, a feature will alter. For instance, one of the biggest blows to map making, I believe, was when Void Fog was added, which
For some maps, yes. I mean, obviously, some maps take advantage of it, but yeah, I didn't. I
well,
remember when that was added, it
I
ruined.
mean, all the maps beforehand assumed it wasn't going to be, and
Yeah,
then it was added. That was devastating. They've now took it out, by the way.
yeah.
There's no more void fog, which I think is a good thing. Yes, okay, some maps really benefited from that atmospheric murkiness, but overall, that's probably better done with lighting, really.
Yeah. Is it taken out?
Yeah, in the latest version, it's gone
I didn't even know that.
for performance reasons, apparently, mostly.
Yeah, I remember when it came out in 1.8 beta because I had my Wonderland map. I had just made because the high uh, maps weren't out yet, And so I had just moved everything in my map to like 2 blocks above the
I
void.
I watched your return to that map when you used what was it, Fran's guns or something like that.
Oh yeah, I don't know why I did that, but
It was interesting, but I that stuck out to me. You know, the way the map. That's what really alerted me to how devastating the void fog was to some maps.
well,
But anyways, again, we're chasing rabbits off into Wonderland. Um,
are you saying I ramble too much and get off topic?
we both do. Um, Me probably worse than you, maybe. But let's not make that a competition.
Yeah, I just do it on recordings more often.
So, as Minecraft marches on, there's always the danger that a map will cease functioning as intended. And that's always a sad thing, and that is a danger with every map. So, there's that compulsion to be careful with making your maps with using features that you're pretty sure will not go defunct. Um,
Sure.
for example, vanilla villager trades. Those are, I mean, that's already changed a few times over a few iterations. So those have been lost or altered beyond original intent. Um, and what I'm working my way towards is that when making a map, it's tempting to delve into mods. For instance, Thaumcraft adds so many incredible things. Railcraft as well. It's tempting to kind of try to work those into a map because it greatly increases the things that you and the eventual players have to toy with. But then there's also other things. For instance, have you heard of the mod called Mind Tweaker?
Nope.
It allows you to change any recipe in the game and to create your own crafting recipes.
Huh.
That is exceptionally tempting to put into a map.
Interesting. Yeah.
But the unfortunate thing is, there's already that danger that your map will eventually become defunct, and that danger rises exponentially as you add in more mods.
Oh yeah.
As that mod may not wind up getting updated in the future. So it's that's one thing that kind of popped into my mind is that I could tap into so much potential and power if I could use something like Mind Tweaker, or I could add more weaponry and abilities with Thaumcraft. But there's that danger that that'll make the map not eventually just die
Yep.
because people can't access that mod anymore.
Yep.
So the actual preamble that I was planning here is that I've played Guild Wars 2. Less so lately. Their latest updates haven't really compelled me much. And then came a interview very recently where they announced Super Adventure Box would not be returning. Now, Super Adventure Box did make some gaming news when it came out 2 Aprils ago, if I remember right. That was ArenaNet's April Fool's event for Guild Wars 2. And rather than a practical joke, they created a game within a game, a old school action platformer like you might expect on the Nintendo 64. And I had a blast with it.
Okay.
But unfortunately, now they're saying that it will not return, which I believe is tragic. First of all, that's content that exists, but they're just throwing it away. That's such a waste, especially since it was so fun. And there's no further development. It's going to continue to be unfinished. There were originally going to be 4 worlds, and now there's only going to be the 2 if they ever give that back to us and put it back in the game. But they're saying they're not even going to do that, supposedly. And that got me thinking. it got me thinking to the games that it was based on, and my thoughts started turning towards things like Super Mario 64, Donkey Kong 64. Um, I guess Psychonauts qualifies. I love Psychonauts.
Hmm.
Banjo Kazooie and Banjo Tooie, and then my mind does weird things. It does these very twisty, odd somersaults sometimes, and it wound up migrating over to kind of a reversed causality. It migrated over to complete the monument maps and then bridged the two subjects.
Okay.
So it jumped and then it bridged them. Weird. But anyways, it I started, comparing and contrasting and all the maps I've seen. And the similarities and differences. And complete the monument maps, most of them follow Vex's formula. He'll have themed areas, or most people will have themed areas, at least in the later ones, especially the underground ones. The earlier ones were more open.
Hmm.
So you have themed areas that are segregated by intersections.
Yep.
And this is actually a very rigid structure. Like the areas can take on all kinds of different rough shapes, but they tend to be kind of sort of blocked out. Even if they're oblong, they're still, there's a path. Um, and then the intersections are obviously very rigid. And when you've looked at several CTMs, people really like that the water underneath, the lava underneath, or the void underneath, and
Yep.
then you have this cross section of roads. And you see this so often that I've started to consider that very, very boring.
Yep.
Um, and in Banjo Kazooie and other such things, you have a hub world, and then you have these themed areas. So there's some similarities there. Um, Now, with these old platformers, not including Psychonauts, like let's look at Nintendo 64, the real classic ones. Honestly, I think Banjo Kazooie was my favorite out of those. Yes, even more so than Super Mario 64 or even Banjo Tooie. Banjo Tooie did improve on a lot of things, but I think Banjo Kazooie had the fundamentals more solid, more stronger fundamentals. And I started comparing Banjo Kazooie to these Complete the Monument maps specifically. And in Banjo Kazooie, have you ever played it? First of all?
I think I played one of them. I think it was on the Wii actually, but I'm not.
No, neither one of them were on the Wii.
No, or yeah, no, that's what I was thinking of. So
Banjo
probably not.
Kazooie and Banjo Tooie were on the Nintendo 64, and they are owned by Rare, not Nintendo,
Hmm.
which means they're Banjo Kazooie and Banjo Tooie are actually on the Xbox.
One of them is like a fox that kind of looks like Swiper from Dora the Explorer, isn't it?
That's Conker.
No, that's not what I'm thinking of.
Diddy Kong Racing featured Banjo, Conker, Tip Top, Diddy Kong, Donkey Kong.
I'm pretty sure I've played one of them. Is it like a Sonic game?
No.
Oh, okay. What am I thinking of then? Where there's like,
Crash Bandicoot,
oh, that's what I'm thinking
probably.
of. That's what I'm thinking of.
Probably Crash Bandicoot. That was always kind of sort of like a 3D Sonic. I didn't really play those much. I
That,
like the more open world ones.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. Crash Bandicoot.
So Banjo Kazooie, it had its hub world and it had various different worlds you go into, and one of the things that really stood out to me as a striking difference between Banjo Kazooie and a lot of these other games and a lot of these CTM maps is that the hub world, yes, it's segmented, yes, it helps pace you, but it's the ways it twists and turns and leads into other things feels more organic. It's not intersections. That's the thing. It serves the same purpose as intersections. However, you can't really call them that because it's not straightforward intersections. You actually have to look around for places to go to reach other areas and to reach levels.
Hmm.
And I mulled this over, and I wound up coming up with the term transitory areas as opposed to intersections.
Okay.
And when I really solidified the difference between transitory areas and intersections, I wound up, uh, I realized this is part of why I liked Banjo Kazooie so much, because the hub world, these transitory areas, were almost as much exploration. These equivalents to intersections were had as much exploration combined as one of these worlds.
Hmm. Now, is that a term that you want your player to actually know and use when they're playing, or that's just for
Technical
the
term.
people who are really into it?
I would use that as a technical term.
Okay.
And that's how I would differentiate the two. Is call one transitory areas, and the transitory areas are again almost like mini levels. Instead of like, okay, Vex does have some transitory areas. He just doesn't use very many, and usually they're very linear. That's one of the things that got me about Banjo Kazooie is that it branches out like a tree, and there's not really very many linear areas in the game, and the linear areas are mostly early on to help keep things simple, and then right at the end, it's linear because you're approaching the end.
Hmm.
You don't want to get too mixed up and lost. Um, and and then it hit me. This is when the epiphany hit me. And I realized that, you know what? No one's made a map like Banjo Kazooie yet. Now, people have made maps of Banjo Kazooie,
Right.
but not like Banjo Kazooie. And there's a significant difference there.
Like there's
And
adaptations or remakes of it.
yeah, it's the fundamentals. It's the basic concepts behind the gameplay that I'm focusing on. Not the level designs, not the power ups or anything like that, but how the game is structured and how the player progresses. That's what I'm thinking about. And when it hit me that I've never seen a map do it quite like that. I never did play Crystalvania, so maybe that one kind of delves into this a little bit. That would be the most likely candidate I can think of.
Hmm.
Um, but it got me thinking, you know what? I want to see a map like this, and I might be the only one that'll do it.
So so Crystalvania, to me, is sort of your classic adventure map where you have this big open world, but there is a linear path to the story. You can kind of subvert it if you really want to, but you basically follow the story through the world and do, it's I would say it's at this point a fairly classic adventure.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah. So
I had thought it was a little bit closer to a Metroidvania.
um, from what perspective? Like,
I don't know. I've not played it myself. I'm going on hearsay here.
I mean, I don't know that term. That term to me, I might not understand. Like I think of when I hear Metroidvania, I think of a side-scrolling. Uh,
Crisscrossing back and forth between areas in order to get the ability to progress further in a different area.
yeah, and like fighting and platforming at the same time. You know, sometimes people will say those are like Castlevania's really hard. Um,
That depends on the Castlevania game, to be honest. Aria of
yeah,
Sorrow is kind of easy, and then whatever one starred Simon, I didn't get very far in that one at all. I couldn't stand the jumping controls.
Yeah, see, and I played those games on the Nintendo, and I pretty much skipped Super Nintendo and GameCube,
Hmm.
and then much when after the Wii came out, I got a GameCube at like a garage sale and played a bunch of games that I had missed and so on and so forth. So tell me again though, in what you're thinking of making, what is what is sort
The
of like,
fundamentals
yeah,
I'm hinting at.
the core.
Okay, well, first of all, there's exploration. Exploration is, in my opinion, the strongest element of Banjo-Kazooie.
Okay.
This was weakened in Banjo-Tooie, in which the levels were often more linear. There are definitely exceptions. There are absolutely exceptions. There are some levels that are really linear in Banjo-Kazooie, and there are some levels that are really open, like the dinosaur level in Banjo-Tooie. Um, but there are some that you have a hard time deviating from the path in Banjo Tooie. But mostly it's the hub world that really drives it into your skull that okay, this is the path you must take, and that kind of is a little bit disappointing. But so exploration first of all, and when you were collecting the initial okay, to unlock a world, you need to collect a jigsaw piece and plug it in to unlock a world. It was a currency of sorts. So your primary goal was to collect jiggies, and a lot of the jiggies were mainly found just by getting to places that took a lot of exploration and either determination or just curiosity, and just trying to get to challenging places, and then being rewarded for getting to those places. So exploration is a big deal to me, first of all. Um, and second is scavenger hunt. Now, complete the monuments are the very rudimentary. That has the absolute basics of a scavenger hunt, and that's collect one of each wool, collect one of each music disc, or things like that. One you played that I forget the name. It's you brought in several different people to help you with it at different times.
Okay. Yep.
Remember the name?
Moon or
Yeah, Moon
From
2.
Flames or.
Moon 2.
Yep.
That's the one. Um, on that one, I noticed that the monument actually had a lot more than just one type of thing you had to collect.
Yeah, and I like that. I like when it's varied.
But that's not enough to me.
Hmm.
And again, I'm taking a lot of inspiration from Banjo Kazooie's design. And the reason why I consider this not enough is because they all serve the same purpose. It was all just collect everything. Um, Psychonauts, unfortunately, is collect everything. But in Banjo Kazooie, again, I adore Psychonauts, one of my favorite games. But no game is perfect, so I'll criticize pretty much anything. Um, so in Banjo Kazooie, you have notes that you collect, and you need a certain amount of notes to unlock doors to progress to the next transitory area, as I was calling them. You need to collect silver skulls to act as a currency to unlock transformations for a witch doctor to turn you into things like a bee or a termite in order to get into places that you are normally unable to reach. Um, you collect jiggies to unlock as a currency for unlocking levels, and you collect Jinjos, which are these very weird, colorful things. Like there's one of each color in every level, and if you collect all of them, it gives you an extra Jiggy. And if you collect the, or no, I don't think that was actually dependent on anything. Never mind. Um, they do kind of return the favor for rescuing them. Yeah, that's the idea. You're kind of they're kind of lost and have been captured and scattered, and you're kind of saving them from the various ledges they found themselves on. And they do repay the favor in the final fight. That is part of how the final battle ends. Um, but that's another thing to collect, and you have to collect one of each color within that level to get this extra jiggy. And there's eggs to collect for ammo, red feathers to collect for fuel for flying, gold feathers to collect for invincibility, and things of that nature. And you also needed to find molehills for your mole buddy, and at certain molehills he would teach you certain skills that would allow you to progress through the levels in ways you were not able to earlier. And in that way, it's actually a little bit like a Castlevania, very slightly, in that way that you do have to progress forward and then return back. As you learn more moves, you can go back and collect things you couldn't before. And so it's got, that's the thing, it's got so many different things to collect, but everything you collect, almost everything you collect, serves a different purpose. There's also honeycomb pieces, and if you collect like 8 honeycomb pieces, it extends your maximum life by 1. So this, it keeps the player from being bored with collecting. In a lot of Complete the Monument maps, it's that eternal slog to, well, demi-eternal slog to, for as long as the map lasts, to get to the next display item, really. And then some maps do actually give you rewards for these. I know Etho, Pause on Pause, and Vintage Beef, I think it was, did a couple CTM maps where you were the CTM, the things you were collecting for the monument were the heads of mindcrackers.
Oh, yeah, ruins at the mindcrackers, CTM.
Yeah, and that was really interesting. I loved actually seeing their builds used as dungeons. But anyways, it rewarded you for each of the heads you brought in, for each head you brought in. So I like the idea that, first of all, collecting things does something positive for you. And secondly, that different things to collect do different positive things, which means that, okay, you can focus on one thing for a while, but then you're like, okay, well, kind of getting bored with this, but hey, there's something else I can focus on. Let's do this, especially if it's collected in a different way. For example, notes are scattered all over the place. You just run around and grab all the ones you pass. They are everywhere, but you need a lot of them. Jiggies are, there's only 10 per level, including the one from the Jinjos. So they're harder to get, and you have to complete specific challenges or get to difficult areas of the map to collect each of those. So not only does each one reward you in a different way, but they're all obtained in a different way as well. And I haven't figured out how I want to actually make different currencies. Ultimately, that's what they are, currencies. I haven't decided how I want to make different currencies serve different purposes, but I do know I want that. Currently, I'm considering levels for basic gear, for leather armor, chainmail armor, iron armor, either wood swords or stone swords. Haven't decided. Again, this is all brainstorming right now. I'm still, it's a roiling thunderstorm in my head, and I'm trying to. Well, I'm throwing things at a wall and seeing what sticks to it right now.
Yeah.
So levels will buy gear. Either stone swords or wood swords will be free. That way you always, have a weapon. And all the basic gear will be bought with experience levels. I want to have an anvil that a command block is making sure it's always there. If it breaks, it replaces it. That way, that service is always available. I see no reason to limit the player, unless making that an unlockable. Actually, come to think of it, that might be a decent idea. Make it so that you have to complete a certain challenge to an early one, because I want this available early, but complete an early challenge to unlock the permanent anvil. Um, and then I'm thinking emeralds, a villager with emerald trades, or I guess I could use command blocks for this too, but I kind of like the idea of continuing to use a villager for emeralds. Um, and having this villager sell you various high tier enchanting books for very expensive amounts of emeralds, and then maybe making. Now, here's this contradicts what I was talking about earlier, and it's mainly because I haven't thought of an alternative yet. Um, but the possibility of maybe turning off natural mob spawns, relying wholly on spawners to have better control over where what shows up, and then setting up the spawners so that all mobs have a chance to drop an emerald.
Right.
So as you're adventuring, you collect these up, you can go back and you can cash them in for a powerful enchantment that you then use the anvil to, you use your levels to buy, and the level equipment is going to be cheaper because, first of all, when you die, you lose your levels. I don't want you to lose items. I'm planning on turning that off because I see no real reason for it in this particular um, format.
Hmm.
But levels, yeah, sure, lose levels. Um,
Well, and well, I think I don't know if you can turn off. So if you do keep inventory, I believe you keep your levels. I don't think there's any way
oh,
to control them separate. But
detect death
the other,
set to 0.
yeah, you could do that, I suppose. The other thing I've seen people do is let because you want to have so many collectibles, the mobs just have their natural drops, but then have a system where you can basically trade them in for other things like a shop, either a vendor trade or just a command block that kind of swaps them out. You could do the emeralds with the custom spawners too, or you can just use, depending on how much.
I was actually considering maybe possibly finding some way to make tall grass regrow over time and
Oh
then
yeah,
replacing wheat seed drops with emeralds.
oh yeah.
Legend of Zelda reference there. I'm not sure how I would do that though.
Well, I mean, you can.
But that would give okay, you kill mobs for experience, you mow the lawn for emeralds.
Hmm. Yeah, there. I mean, there's a couple ways you could do it. You could, and I don't know if this is what you were interested in brainstorming or if you had specific questions, but um, if you wanted to, and this is probably not the best way to do it, uh, but if you wanted to have it where certain blocks would grow, you could just test for those blocks, or put a, whoops, sorry, just fell off of a plane, or have a timer that replaces the short grass with the tall grass after a certain amount of
Oh,
time.
but by tall grass, I mean just the grass.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
grass that grows on
the,
grass blocks.
like the double high
No,
grass.
no, no. Just what grows on top of grass blocks.
Oh, okay, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, there's three kinds of grasses now. Medium grass. There we go. Medium grass. Medium and tall.
Gotcha.
Just mowing the lawn.
Yeah.
So yeah, different methods to get different things. I'm also thinking for the more important stuff, the equivalent to jiggies, whatever that winds up being. Maybe sometimes put those behind locks, and then you complete challenges to earn keys. And what these locks and keys would be pickaxes.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, so and just use a resource pack to turn them into colored keys and set them all to only have a single use before breaking.
Yeah, see, if you're going to use a resource pack, and by the way, you can package them in your map now, so it's not a separate
Hmm.
thing, then I would definitely encourage just using the natural drops and rename them in the language pack and retexture them to look like
But then you
whatever
have
you
too
want.
many. Then you have too many different things all coming from mobs.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean you can control how many of their drops. I guess that's true. So you're saying they would only drop an emerald.
Something
Oops.
like that. Yeah, and honestly, for a map like this, mob drops, other than a currency, mob drops don't really make a lot of sense to me. Um, because again, this is a wholly different type of gameplay experience that I'm kind of shooting for.
Hmm. Okay.
So you're not really collecting iron from You're not trying to collect iron from zombies to craft a iron pick. You're not trying to get that rare carrot so you can feed yourself. That's another thing. Um, there isn't a way to turn off the hunger mechanic, is there, for adventure mode?
Um, I
You would
don't
just have to
know.
keep giving them saturation, I guess.
I don't know the answer to that actually.
Mm.
I feel like there might be because you can turn, but I'm not sure. The reason I say that is because you can turn off um, the
Well,
healing.
there will be a way to work around it. For one thing really stuck with me. You were talking about that podcast and efficiency in maps, and that kind of struck a chord with me. And so I'm trying to figure out ways to use less clocks,
Yes.
less have less command blocks running.
Yeah. Thank you.
Which is why I asked you, very first thing I asked you over Skype text, when I was kind of first getting your attention, was whether or not a command block could swap out blocks in a chunk that wasn't necessarily loaded at the time.
And I,
Because
yeah, I don't think so.
if that were possible, I think that could cut out a lot of command blocks for some of the things I'd like to do. Right. So let's see.
But what most people, well, what a lot of people will do, I think, and again, I haven't really done enough with command blocks yet. But I think what people are doing is they're putting all their command blocks in the spawn chunks, and then they're building their map somewhere else. So
Mhm.
you have all that room for logic.
Mhm.
Actually, this may not actually help you. Um,
No, not in this. It's not in this particular case. What I'm thinking about is, and the parallel is complete coincidence, by the way. Just how close this parallel is. I was actually thinking of the flight pads, the blue and green, the blue pads with the red feathers on them, the flight pads. When I was thinking of this, I was not thinking of the green jump pads, but I wanted to make it so that you could find circles of blocks, and once you unlocked that quote unquote skill, you would be able to jump from these circle of slime blocks and be able to get launched much higher. Now, my original thought was to have pistons actually, actually have it push up and launch you that way. But then I thought, you know what? That's going to mess with people. Like for multiplayer with any kind of latency, that's probably going to mess with people. Keep it simple, stupid. At least for the player, it would probably be best to just give them a jump boost effect while they're standing on it.
yeah, and you can do that fairly easily.
But my idea was that all of these would, through either the absence or the presence of like a redstone block, these would all be disabled until you unlocked them, and then I would want all of them to be activated. But if one is in an unloaded chunk when you unlock this ability, it wouldn't get unlocked just that one, activation. So I would have to put something in place to periodically check for it, and that's something I was hoping I'd be able to avoid.
Oh, well, the other thing you can do is you can just set scoreboards on the player, and you just test for the scoreboard, or you not test for, but you make it so that when, just for example, like you step on a pressure plate, and that triggers.
Wow, that is so simple.
Well, then under it is a command block that gives you the jump boost, right? But
Yeah,
you,
and it just checks for that variable.
yeah, and
That is
then
so simple.
yeah.
I should have thought of that. See, this is why I'm coming to you.
Yeah, I haven't, like I said, I haven't done a ton with command blocks. I have some basic idea of what some things should do, and I'm certainly, I can figure stuff out pretty quick if I actually sit down and try. But
I'm wondering if it might be actually possible to kidnap you at some point to help me out with this in a more direct way.
well, there's a couple people like Bongo Tez, for example. I don't know if you've watched any of his stuff, but he's and also Q Magnet are both doing a lot of tutorial type stuff lately, and I know Bongo was helping
I,
Fellonius
I,
Wizard.
I actually meant for general purposes, just
Yeah.
just conscript you.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm always willing to help as long as I have free time to do it. So.
Yeah. So okay, so there's those jump pads, and again, I was thinking of the flight pads when I was thinking about these, jump boost pads. I wasn't thinking about the original jump pads in Banjo-Kazooie. That was a complete coincidence. That same color, same purpose.
Hmm.
I didn't mean to do that. It just happened that okay, slime blocks make you bounce. So I was just thinking of the pads in general, not the jump pads, and it just there it is.
Yeah. See now, to me, like everything that you're saying sounds interesting. I would be a little bit. Just my personality would be cautious about scope creep. So like I would start
Hmm.
prototyping and figuring out what I want kind of the world to look like in one path, and then all
Um,
of the logic.
the mechanics are more important for me,
Yeah.
actually, in this particular thing. Like I said originally, it's the type of map I'm focusing on the most. It's the how the gameplay works that
Hmm.
I'm aiming for. So
So yeah, prototyping each of those individual ideas in like a
yeah.
flat world and just playing around with them till they work. And then the other thing that does for you is it gives you an idea of how much room you need. Because one thing that I'm very guilty of is building something and then trying to cram the redstone into that space. Doesn't always work.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be doing the redstone first for most of it, and for devices like the jump pad, that's going to be something relatively simple to just keep rebuilding, and I think it's going to have a small footprint. So that one can actually probably be plugged in later as long as I don't have something really huge redstone under it.
Hmm.
And I think I would actually try to avoid that sort of thing anyways. Try to keep it minimal for that. Another thing I'm kind of kicking around in my head is, and I'm afraid this won't work for a reason I'll get to, but these skills. I was pondering how to unlock these skills. As I mentioned in Banjo Kazooie, you basically just get to a molehill and then you get taught it. But I'm wondering if maybe using another currency for it, like in particularly hard challenges, maybe, or just a little bit better hidden away, hiding a Eye of Ender, for example, and then having it where in this shop area that you might keep coming back to gear up,
Hmm.
having just a wall where you have different skills and upgrades listed, and then have portal frame blocks under these listed abilities, and you have to fill in all the portal frame blocks under each ability to unlock them. So things like Region 1 might require 3 Eyes of Ender, and there no Region 2, only the first one, because anything further than that is too powerful.
Hmm.
Um, in my opinion, I really don't see how that wouldn't get out of hand very quickly if it got any more powerful than that. And I'd want to make that very expensive. Strength 1 would require 1 Eye of Ender, Strength 2, maybe 2 more um, to bump it up to Strength 2. So a permanent damage increase. Um, that's another thing, permanent progress, permanent getting stronger, I think would be a good thing. And then, another one where using this mechanic to unlock the jump pads, for example, or maybe unlock maybe inspiration from Sonic, one of those speeder things. I don't know. You
Oh,
run through a gate and it boosts your speed, and maybe make some really long jumps that way or something.
yeah, I was gonna say the booster idea. Yeah, I mean, I would definitely, I would limit like I would limit it to prototyping, maybe 5 to 10, or put a limit on how many mechanics you have, just from a scope perspective. And this is just what I would advise to anyone with their first foray, would be to kind of don't
And I
bite
can
off more than you can
understand how,
chew.
I can understand why, but I don't think I could be satisfied with this, to be honest.
Hmm.
It's almost like this would be, if I actually accomplish this, this would kind of be my magnum opus.
Hmm.
And I wouldn't really want to release it unless I have um, basically all the things I've described so far, or I've achieved all the basic goals, all the fundamentals. That's exactly what I'm wanting. These basic gameplay
Hmm.
elements. And if I don't have every single one of those, I don't think I'll want to rest until I manage to work it in there. Um,
Yeah, but you just break it up
not shoehorned,
into,
not shoehorned. I'd want to make it fit too.
sure, but just break it up into like manageable chunks. Get X number of them working, then move on to the next
Well, see
bit.
that
Then,
that's a fun thing actually, fun thing to note. And obviously, in Banjo Kazooie and other similar games, you would unlock these things gradually as you go on, anyways. So the map making could potentially actually mirror the
hmm,
gameplay in that way.
yeah.
That almost makes me on top of waiting until I've figured things out before I really start diving in. Have a firm idea. Instead of just a bunch of things, a list of things I'm pondering. Have okay, a couple things that I know I want. I might have to wait even longer until I can record.
Hmm.
That's real tempting because this is something that I would feel tempted to chronicle, and I would hope other people find it interesting. If they don't, they don't. But I'm not going to find out unless I do record it.
Yeah. Well, and like this series, I mean, that I'm doing, it's not um, for everybody.
Hmm.
So
I
I definitely was hoping, oh shoot, that people who are into survival series would enjoy this more than a straight map making series. But I'm not sure uh,
I
that
was
I have
tempted.
the audience that I was hoping
Yeah.
for.
Well, I've had practically no audience on that. Oh no, I forgot the name of it. The map we co-played with. Um, my goodness, the views on that were almost non-existent, and that completely shocked me. I I'm afraid, as far as gameplay is concerned, we're both too technical. I mean, I loved playing the map with you, but we just went a little overboard on the analysis, I guess.
Yeah, I think I would say it's more of a general state of Minecraft viewers, unless you've got already have an audience that will watch everything you put out. It's actually seems pretty hard to build an audience off of a map type play nowadays. People just don't really seem into it anymore, or
Um,
not
Except
the.
for modded maps, actually.